welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're venturing into, well, a really fascinating, maybe unconventional area based on sources you've shared with us. We're talking about the lizard people conspiracy theory.
It's definitely a persistent one.
Right. And we've got quite a mix of sources, some YouTube stuff from History's Ancient Aliens, investigations from Vice, BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah, and Trey the Explainer, the Stream Movies, and more. Sci-Fi Central. Quite the collection.
Exactly. So we're looking at everything from, supposed ancient evidence, abduction stories.
To where the whole theory even came from,
Yeah.
and the people pushing it today.
So our mission, I guess, is to unpack all of this, sift through it.
Pretty much. We want to really look at the core claims, what they're presenting as evidence.
Right.
And also touch on the counter-arguments. Basically give you a roadmap to the key parts of this theory, which covers, everything from ancient aliens to modern politics.
Okay, so where do we start? Ancient origins seems like a big theme.
Definitely. And
Yeah.
some of the claims are pretty out there.
Like this one account, Charmaine de Rosario from 2008.
Oh, yeah. The transformation story.
She claims she turned into a reptilian in a cave underground in England.
And supposedly learned that humans are basically like genetic experiments by 80 different alien races.
80. That's a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
It's a very dramatic origin story. And what's interesting is how these personal, really extraordinary experiences can anchor these huge conspiracy theories.
So the idea is these races were fighting, using us as pawns.
That's the narrative presented. Territorial wars between different alien groups, and we're the byproducts. It sets up this grand, almost mythological scale.
And it even ties into religious themes returning, like Jesus, the Messiah.
Yeah, the suggestion in some sources is that these promises of return actually came from the extraterrestrials. They said they'd come back.
And this idea of the Messiah's army coming from inner Earth, not from the sky.
Right, to take over the surface, it completely flips the usual narrative.
That inner Earth idea,
Yeah.
it pops up a lot, doesn't it, in different myths.
It really does. This concept of a hidden power deep within the Earth, ready to emerge. So when you layer the reptilian conspiracy on top...
It leads to the question, are they getting ready to show themselves? Are weird sightings the prelude?
Exactly. Are these the signs? Which sort of brings us to those figurines.
Oh, right. The Nelly figurines from Sierra Leone. This sounds like something out of a movie.
Doesn't it? Early 90s, rebels mining for blood diamonds find these statues.
5 to 10 feet tall. Reptilian amphibian features made of clay, granite.
And local legend connects them to sky gods who supposedly fell from the... Yeah, at the University of Washington, trying to figure out what these stones actually are.
And the results were inconclusive.
Pretty much. 12 labs couldn't agree if they were natural or man-made, but Professor Ward's own tests found lots of nitrogen, organic stuff.
Leading him to call them a very peculiar rock category.
Exactly. He even floated the possibility of an extraterrestrial origin, saying more study was needed. And that kind of scientific ambiguity, well, it fuels speculation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Okay, shifting gears a bit, away from artifacts to biology. This gets really weird. A case in Houston, 2010. A guy with a 3-chambered heart, like a reptile.
Right. The explanation given was atavism.
Which is?
It's basically the reemergence of an ancestral trait, something our distant evolutionary ancestors had, but we lost, mostly.
So evolution went fish heart, reptile heart, then mammal or human heart.
Broadly speaking, yes. Fish have 2 chambers, reptiles usually 3, mammals and birds have 4. We actually echo this a bit during embryonic development.
So atavism is like a glitch in that development, a throwback.
Kind of. The developmental process occasionally reverts slightly, and an older structure reappears.
And the sources link other things too. Human tails, scaly skin.
There are documented cases of human tails, over 100 since the 1800s apparently, and ichthyosis, that skin condition causing dry, scaly skin. These are presented as potential biological links.
But is there a standard scientific explanation for these?
Oh, absolutely. Atavism explains rare tail occurrences, and things like ichthyosis are understood genetic mutations. While they look unusual, science doesn't really need a hidden reptilian ancestor to explain them.
Got it. Okay, now, the Basque people. This is another interesting angle.
Very much so. Isolated region, unique language, unrelated to any others in Europe.
And this high concentration of Rh-negative blood, up to 35%.
Yeah, that's statistically quite high. The Rh factor is just a protein on red blood cells. Most people have it, they're Rh positive. If you don't, you're Rh negative.
And the issue is pregnancy, right? if an Rh-negative mother has an Rh-positive baby.
Exactly. Her immune system can attack the baby's blood cells, which raises the question some sources pose. Why would this seemingly disadvantageous trait become so common in one population?
And there are other traits, sometimes linked to Rh-negative blood, lower blood pressure, extra vertebra.
Some studies suggest correlations, yeah, though it's not completely settled science. But the key thing the sources jump on is that Rh-negative blood was mostly found in Europe before colonization.
So the origin is a mystery, leading to speculation about different species or outside sources.
That's the implication drawn in these sources. The scientific questions about its origin provide an opening for more, let's say, exotic explanations.
Okay, let's jump to the modern conspiracy. This is where it gets really well known.
And pretty wild.
The idea that famous people, George Bush, Bieber, Queen Elizabeth, Zuckerberg, even Alexander the Great, are secretly reptiles.
Shape-shifting reptiles, yeah. In disguise. Running governments, culture, for nefarious purposes.
Food source, control.
The motivations vary, but they're usually sinister. Control seems to be the main one.
And people actually believe this.
Yeah.
I mean, that poll.
The 2013 poll showing 4% of Americans believe it. Yeah. It might seem fringe, but the idea has definitely lodged itself in parts of the public consciousness.
Where did this specific modern version even start? It's relatively recent, right?
Surprisingly, a lot of it seems to trace back to 1934. An LA Times report.
About an engineer, Shufelt.
George Warren Shufelt, yeah. Claimed he found tunnels under LA shaped like a giant lizard.
Built 5,000 years ago. By lizard people, escaping a cataclysm. Gold tablets, smart kids.
That's the story he told. Claimed a Hopi Indian named Little Chief Greenleaf backed him up.
Did he find anything?
Nope. Tried to excavate, funding dried up, nothing concrete ever emerged. That lack of proof is pretty significant.
Then there was that pamphlet in the 40s, Maurice de Riel.
Describing a serpent race, human bodies, snakeheads, could shapeshift into human form. Warred with humans, nearly wiped out.
So laying the groundwork.
Exactly. Introducing those key elements. Hidden serpent race, shapeshifting.
And then comes David Icke in the 90s.
Right. He's the one who really blew it up, took those earlier ideas and massively expanded them.
His version is ancient lizard aliens from another star, living underground.
Yeah, disguised as powerful humans, especially royalty, wealthy families, the elites.
And they're eating us, or just manipulating us.
Both theories circulate in his work. Eating humans, feeding off negative energy, pushing for total control. He really mainstreamed the idea, connecting it to a lot of other right-wing conspiracy thinking.
So when people try to back this up, what historical evidence do they point to?
Well, one common example is the Ubaid figurines from ancient Mesopotamia, modern Iraq.
The ones that look vaguely humanoid but with long heads, weird eyes.
Those are the ones. Coffee bean eyes, pinched noses. Ancient aliens presented them as maybe too realistic to be just myth.
But what do actual archaeologists say?
They generally see them as, stylized pottery figures, maybe representing humans, maybe spirits or gods. The features could be artistic style, masks, maybe evidence of skull elongation, which we know happened.
So probably not literal reptoids.
Unlikely, based on the archaeological consensus. They're interesting artifacts, but probably not aliens.
What about myths and religious texts? Snakes and serpent gods are everywhere.
They are. You hear references to Hopi legends, though that connection is shaky. The serpent in Eden, the Nagas in South Asia, jinn in Islam, feathered serpents in Mesoamerica, even legends about Alexander the Great's origins.
But interpreting these literally is tricky.
Extremely tricky. Yeah. Take the Shufelt story. It really sounds like pulp sci-fi from the 30s, and there's zero evidence for his Hopi connection or the tunnels.
And the Nagas.
They're complex mythological beings in South Asia, often magical, not always humanoid, living in a mythical underworld, not literally under cities. Citing stepwells as entrances is misinterpreting historical structures.
The serpent in Genesis.
Most biblical scholars see it symbolically, likely just a snake. The idea it was Satan came much later, and seraphim are fiery winged serpents, not humanoid lizards.
So it's about context, not just grabbing anything snake-like.
Exactly. Mythologies use powerful symbols. They evolve. Trying to force-fit them into a single, literal reptilian narrative doesn't really work. You end up with a very loose definition of reptilian.
And you mentioned a more troubling aspect.
Yes. It's hard to ignore the echoes of older anti-Semitic conspiracies. The idea of a hidden group secretly controlling the world, it's a very similar structure, just swapping out the scapegoated group. That's a really important shadow hanging over this theory.
let's circle back to David Icke himself. He had a whole other career before this.
He did. He was a well-known TV sports presenter in the UK. Then came 1991.
The infamous interview where he declared himself the Son of God.
That was the moment, a huge turning point. After that, he really started developing and pushing the reptilian conspiracy.
This hidden race of shapeshifters pushing us towards a Orwellian superstate.
That's his core narrative. And he adds these really extreme layers.
The Satanist pedophile angle. Eating human flesh, feeding off children's energy.
Yes, very dark, very sensational claims, which absolutely contribute to the controversy around him.
And other weird beliefs, too. The moon being fake.
Moon matrix, yeah. He claims it's a hollow space station controlling our minds. It's a whole interconnected web of unconventional ideas.
Why stick with it, though, with all the ridicule?
His explanation is that he's seen and heard enough evidence to be convinced. He frames it as putting humanity's future above his own reputation. He sees himself as connecting the dots, revealing this hidden tapestry of manipulation.
And this started with some kind of enlightenment experience back in 1990.
He refers to an experience in March 1990 as being key. That's when he says he started understanding this predatory reptilian race, how they farm humanity, demand sacrifice, linking it all to Satanism.
He names names, too, like Bill Clinton, working for the Rothschilds, pushing for censorship.
He weaves current events and political figures into his narrative constantly. The Rothschilds are a frequent target, which again raises those anti-Semitism concerns we discussed.
Yet he has a big following.
He does. Within conspiracy circles, he's very influential, which leads to debate. Is he just an eccentric, or is he deliberately discrediting real issues by tying them to lizard people?
It's amazing how this stuff permeates pop culture now. Podcasts, TV.
It really does. Even if it's often treated ironically, the lizard people idea is definitely out there, and the details shift, Are they from Earth? Space? Both?
And those signs... You might be one. Liking space, green eyes that change color.
Feeling like you don't belong, compassion, unexplained scars.
Pretty broad net.
Exactly. These vague characteristics are common in these kinds of theories. If you list enough things that many people feel or experience, you create potential points of identification. It's selective evidence, really.
We need to stress again the seriousness of the anti-Semitism accusations against Icke, though. The Rothschilds as blood-sucking reptilians posing as Jews, the Holocaust denial hints.
Absolutely crucial. It's not just quirky conspiracy stuff. It treads into genuinely hateful and dangerous territory that cannot be overlooked when discussing his influence.
Okay, slightly different angle. Is there any science that might make people susceptible, like fear of snakes?
That's an interesting point raised in one source. Neuroscience shows we do have brain pathways that react strongly to snakes, likely an evolutionary survival mechanism.
So maybe that primal fear makes the idea of a reptile-human hybrid scarier, more believable on some level.
It's plausible it could contribute psychologically. That innate wariness might make the concept resonate more deeply, tapping into existing anxieties.
So if we try to synthesize all this, why does this myth persist? What's the underlying appeal?
Fundamentally, it seems to speak to distrust. Distrust of authority, fear of being manipulated by forces we can't see or understand in a complex world.
Powerlessness.
Yeah, and anxieties about who's really in charge. It plays on very old primal fears of the unknown, questions about identity. Plus, storytelling is powerful. And the internet, perfect breeding ground.
Like a modern monster myth, giving a face to anxieties.
You could see it that way. A cautionary tale about power, a metaphor for hidden influences. But the danger is always there, dehumanizing people, creating division based on conspiracy.
Okay, let's dig into one specific source. The Stream Movies and More documentary. It makes huge claims right off the bat.
Very ambitious. It basically says, we'll show you evidence that ancient serpent aliens came here, created us and religion, and they're still here.
Wow. And their evidence is everything.
Pretty much. Ancient myths, texts, archaeology, science interpreted a certain way, abduction stories, UFOs, manipulating world events.
Specific examples. Ancient snake heart. Gilgamesh as alien contact. Pyramids.
All of that. Plus advanced ancient math and astronomy, flood myths as alien resets, sky gods being aliens, Noah's Ark.
Abductions, UFOs, ancient tech like the anti-terror mechanism.
Crop circles, Bermuda Triangle, Nazca lines. It casts a very wide net, pulling in almost every mystery or anomaly.
And the craziest claim, religion itself is an alien invasion.
That's the core idea presented. Worship of ancient gods, a root of all religion, alien influence. And this idea of a special holy bloodline created by them. Jesus, royalty.
It's a total rewrite of history.
A highly speculative one, yes. It positions the serpent as the original wise one, altering our genetics. Then it tries to find linguistic links.
Serpent meaning fire, prophecy, life, in various languages.
Right. Connecting Canaanite, Mayan, Sumerian words, trying to build a case through etymology.
Serpent worship in early Christianity.
Yeah.
Gnostics, Druids worshiping serpent gods.
Mm-hmm. It pulls in the Acropolis serpent, the Delphic oracle, Pytho the snake, links divination words to serpent in Hebrew, Arabic, Greek, even the jinn in Islam.
Ancient rulers linked to serpents. Eve meaning female serpent, Cain being of serpent descent.
It reinterprets foundational stories quite radically, extends it to indigenous American myths, connects circumcision to snakes shedding skin and Sumerian shining ones.
The Watchers, giants, the cataclysm, the ox symbol representing a different race.
Thoth, Hermes, Mercury as serpent-linked alien teachers. The Te crosses the mark of Cain. It's relentless connection-making.
And the Merovingians, descended from Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and fallen angels from Atlantis, linked to dragons and serpent worship, still in European royalty.
It's a particularly dense part of the theory, weaving together Holy Grail legends, ancient myths, and genealogy into this grand narrative of hidden serpent lineage controlling Europe.
Sea-born serpent gods creating civilization. Leviathan as global control. Levites, meaning sons of the Leviathan.
It connects the Babylonian creation myth, Tiamat the serpent goddess, to the Merovingians, dating the invasion to 5000, 4000 BC, serpent rock art after the flood, Moses' staff.
Enoch's war between shining serpent aliens and giants. And time travel. Serpent aliens might time travel.
Yeah, citing myths of Kronos, the serpent in Eden, even hints at modern physics and UFOs. It's an incredibly intricate, though entirely speculative, web they weave.
Okay, let's switch to the Sci-Fi Central documentary. This one zooms in on the royal family.
Right. It frames the whole lizard people myth as stemming from the fears of the governed looking up at the rulers, cold-blooded shapeshifters in power.
It mentions Egypt's reverence for serpents, Ix's role.
And really emphasizes how the myth taps into feelings of lost autonomy, unseen forces controlling things.
The royals are a natural target. Ancient lineage, mystery, power.
Exactly. And the serpent symbol does appear in royal imagery and myths. The documentary acknowledges the skepticism that it's just paranoia.
But also sees it as a rallying cry for the disillusioned, a reflection of human insecurity.
Yeah, suggesting it's less about literal lizards and more about our deep-seated anxieties regarding power and human nature.
This one also brings up the Sumerians and the Anunnaki.
Right, describing them as star beings, powerful, wise, manipulating reality, creating humans via genetics, and potentially having reptilian traits.
So drawing parallels between Anunnaki descriptions, elongated skulls, maybe scales, liking power, and modern lizard people.
It suggests the modern myth might be an evolution of those ancient stories, tapping into the same core fears of manipulation and the unknown.
Then it goes to Egypt again. Gods with animal features, chimeras. Were the pharaohs otherworldly?
It poses that question. Were chimeric figures like the Sphinx just symbols? Or did they reflect a deeper belief about blending the divine and earthly, maybe even extraterrestrial? Suggesting modern lizard theories echo ancient Egyptian ways of grappling with power and origins.
And connecting ancient Egypt to modern secret societies. Rosicrucians, Freemasons, Illuminati.
Yeah, suggesting a hidden thread. Pointing to the Egyptian god set, sometimes depicted lizard-like, then suggesting these societies inherited or guarded secret knowledge, maybe involving lizard people, with the British royals potentially linked through bloodline or membership.
And the documentary's finale brings in the Greys. The whole world is an illusion.
It gets very dramatic at the end, a grand illusion run by non-human puppeteers, the lizard aliens, possibly working with the Greys.
The royals as key players in this alien cabal. Their long history, raising suspicion.
Posing the idea they're a long line of shapeshifters. Questioning the Greys' motives. Are they collaborating in an invasion?
Suggesting UFO reports are prepping us. Media is controlled. Global crises are staged.
All part of the final narrative push. Wars, pandemics, climate change as performances, technology as a tool of control, possibly influenced by Greys, urging you, the listener, not to dismiss the bizarre.
It loops back again to ancient myths being real accounts of aliens leaving a bloodline.
Exactly. Framing the royals, Greys, and lizard people as part of one big cosmic game. Asking you to consider if it could be true.
He talks about sacrifices the royals make for power. Rituals. controlling media.
Yeah, painting them as driven by pure hunger for power, seeing humanity as just a resource, warning of future subjugation.
It ends on a note of hope, human resilience, awakening.
Right, urging unity, reclaiming agency, saying fate isn't fixed. The lizard overlord's reign is built on fear. It can be ended. It's a call to awaken and confront reality, promising liberation. Very powerful ending.
Wow. Okay. So we have definitely covered a lot of ground here, resurfacing from that deep dive.
For sure. We've seen the lizard people theory from so many angles: ancient aliens, biology, modern conspiracies, specific figures like Ik, mythological interpretations.
It's clear the evidence is all over the place, often contradictory, and really depends on interpretation.
Highly subjective. Yeah.
Our goal today was really just to lay out the main claims and arguments from the sources you shared so you can see the different pieces.
And start to form your own perspective on it all.
Which leaves us with maybe one final thought for you to chew on. This kind of narrative, the hidden controllers, the shapeshifters, it keeps popping up across cultures, across history. Why do you think that is?
That's the big question, isn't it? What does its persistence tell us about how we view power, how we deal with the unknown, and maybe our own deep-seated anxieties about who or what might really be pulling the strings in our world?
Something to think about. We definitely encourage you to keep exploring the sources and ideas we talked about today.